Anne Kolker began sailing with her aunt and uncle when she was about 8 years old. She met her husband and they began to sail together. They bought a boat with plans to retire and sail everywhere. When her husband died, she was determined to keep the boat. She learned of a team of women who were doing a Marion Bermuda race, and she was accepted as crew, even though she had no race experience. She's a doctor, and that's a really big plus. They practiced and started the race, but dropped out due to concerns about the weather and decided that the next race would be on her boat. Since that, she's done 8 all-female crew races on Etoile. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you very much. Thrilled to be here and tell my story. My friends thought I was a little crazy, but I said, this time it's going to be on my boat. We had turned around on the first try. So my Bermuda wasn't my first race. I did a race from Stonington, Connecticut to Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. And then I thought, okay, I'm ready. A number of my friends helped me pass the inspection. There are lots of things you have to do to get your boat ready. And I had a whole long checklist. The next thing I did was once the boat was launched, I said, well, I have all these sails. We have to figure out what tracks they go on and how we set the sheets and such. So I was busy doing that. We were at the dock. I was walking back to bring the sail in a sail bag back to the lazarette. And I slipped along the way and actually fell into the lazarette and grabbed hold of the side so that I wouldn't break a leg. But I pitched forward across the seat and banged my head. I mean, this is probably about 2 weeks later. I had a huge goose egg on the front of my head, and I had to actually continue to work, beg people to let me not go out and see patients in the waiting area. I said, once I'm wearing a mask, I'll be fine. I'm an anesthesiologist. We finally got it all together, passed the inspection, and started the race in about 25 to 28 knots of wind with gusts into the 30s. My crew informed me that as the captain and owner of the boat, that I was the person to take it across the starting line. And I was fully terrified. I just thought, well, everybody else here looks fine. They all look like they have complete confidence in me. And I just kept thinking, have I actually lost my mind? But we shortened sail and we got going, and that was fine. A boat show and people ask about the race and I'm representing the race. Isn't it terrifying? And I say, well, I show them the picture of the start, and then I show them this next picture. It's maybe a little challenging, but there's a picture of one of my crew painting her fingernails because there was so little wind that there was, nothing else to do but sit on the deck and paint your fingernails. We had a turtle swimming around us. As I've said, every day in a race is different weather, different conditions. Our ride through the Gulf Stream, I was told that it would be so bumpy, it would be like going over Volkswagens, which it really wasn't. It was just bumpy, because the Gulf Stream is bumpy and it was windy, but wasn't too bad. One of my crew said, there's a tear in the mainsail. So we had all the things to repair it. We dropped the sail a little bit. We were able to make it so that the tear wasn't very big. And that was great. We were still in the Gulf Stream, and it appeared that the refrigeration wasn't working. And when I spoke to them finally after we got through the Gulf Stream, my mechanic said to me, well, you know where the refrigeration unit is? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, take a hammer and bang on the housing of the refrigeration unit. And I said, Chris, I'm in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and you're telling me to bang on it with a hammer? And he said, yeah, if it doesn't work the first time, try it again. And believe it or not, something in the refrigeration unit was stuck, and it Debbie, or hammer or duct tape. Yeah, those are the two things you really need. But the hammer got the refrigeration working again. And we're getting close to Bermuda. We're taking on some waves over the side, and they're going into the aft lazarette. And I'm at the helm, and I noticed that my chart plotter makes it appear that we're approaching Africa. So I yelled down to my navigator, what are you doing with the chart plotter? Because sometimes, there's a master and a slave to the two parts of your chart plotter. One is down in the navigator station and the other is up at the pedestal. And she said, I'm not doing anything. And then the screen went blank and our entire system of electronics went out. And, approaching Bermuda is kind of interesting because there are a lot of different marker buoys that you have to be very careful about because it's surrounded by a big reef. But luckily, we had our backup system and we had a computer that had a GPS receiver on it. And so we were able to use that and navigate as best we could toward Bermuda. We didn't really have a detailed Bermuda chart. And so as we got closer, we almost went on the wrong side of a buoy until one person said, no, you're on the wrong side of the buoy. We tacked away from it and we crossed the finish line, which was like, oh my God, we made it here. And it was so incredible. You cross the finish line, you turn the engine on, you turn around. You can see I'm wearing the shirt that we wore there. And I'll just tell you very briefly, this was my entire crew. Many of these people have sailed a lot of races with me. And we're sitting there drinking Dark and Stormies, which was a nice way to finish the race and come into Bermuda. And we're at the dinghy club there. We knew we were the only female crew in that particular race, and there's a Faith Paulson Award, a trophy for the all-female crew. We actually finished in the middle of the pack, which I thought was pretty respectable for my first big ocean race. I think it was the year that there had been a lot of royal weddings. So I brought along my little plastic tiara and accepted my Faith Paulson trophy wearing my tiara. And I actually made my entire crew do that too, but they didn't come up with me. The only other thing that was interesting and something I had never actually thought about was that we had to make a return trip. And we hadn't provisioned for the return trip. So I thought, well, we're going to Bermuda. They sell food there. And it turns out that just wasn't, that wasn't the way it was going to happen. One of the other people I knew who was racing and his wife was there. And she said, well, I've contacted a company that does catering. But it turned out they only did catering for like 40 people. So we ate catered hors d'oeuvres the whole way back. So it's like, it was just, you never know what's going to happen. I can tell you that our races after that have gotten a lot more polished. But, it's just the first time down, I was so pleased that we made it there. And I actually said, okay, been there, done that. And that was race number one out of so many others. I've had a lot of different people come with me, and some people have been stalwart and have been on every race with me. So it's been a lot of fun. And that's my story.
Oh, thanks so much, Anne.